Hi guys, so I made a video yesterday while I was out doing a workout on the side effects of antidepressants and in particular selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, which leads me nicely into the next topic, and this is one I really wanted to discuss. It's probably the main topic I really wanted to discuss because I wasn't able to find any videos really on this or any advice, and that's talking about autism and sport. So I want to make one particularly on rugby, but that'll just be my story as a whole. This is my story as well, but the difficulties when you're playing sport with autism and what I've found, and there are many, but this is just to give a perspective. So if somebody wants to know, they can find out. They can come straight to my video and be like, "Oh shit, that's why I struggle with that. That makes sense to me now." Because there isn't an awful lot of advice. And in my experience, doctors just said to me and my mum, "Oh, you'll find that too difficult. You won't stick with that. That'll be too much. Team sports just won't suit you." So, to give a little bit of context, I've played a good few sports in my life. Rugby being the main one. Played that. I started playing that when I was 7 years old, which is also the same age I got my diagnosis at. I think that's because my mum wanted me to get into sport, get me used to teamwork and socialising with other kids. Um, Started football a bit later. Um, Started football at about 10 or 11, and then played that till 13 or 14. Played Gaelic football before that, but really just didn't like the team. Um, and that'll bring me on to something that I found I really didn't like about sport in general, but it was just the clickiness of it. And, no patience with me at all. They just expected me to know what I was doing, and I'd only just started playing. I hated the atmosphere. I just really didn't like it at all. And my mum was pretty happy when I left. So I played Gaelic football in school, which I found really good. So I played in primary and a little bit just as a laugh in secondary school. And then football at the start of secondary school for about 3 years, and then decided I had to pick one sport because I was doing boxing as well. So did rugby, as I say, from seven. Really wanted to play for Ireland. That was a big goal of mine. Um, Loved it. I was obsessed with rugby. That was my main thing. So it was the only thing keeping me going. And I remember saying like to my parents, "Oh, I wanna." They were like, "Which sport do you want to play for Ireland?" And I was like, "Oh, rugby and football." And they're like, "Well, you can't do both." And obviously, when you're a kid, you think, "Oh yeah, well, of course I can." The sky's the limit. And then I watched a few Rocky movies, and then while I was still in primary school in the last few years, I joined boxing, and I was doing that for about 2 years. I've been doing football as well, but boxing's a very macho sport, and it's you have to be very fit to do it. And a lot of the kids that I was doing it with were from really disadvantaged backgrounds, and they were all nice lads. I couldn't relate to a lot of them, um, and that was hard. Like it was tough, and they were tough. But I just didn't have enough self confidence at all at that time to do boxing. It just didn't. I didn't have the self belief that it would take to be good at it. Like you see how cocky some boxers are, but you do need that. You need that element of self belief. So I'm rambling again. I know that that's something you'll just notice with me. That's not just me. That's another thing with autism for sure. Because I've spoken to people with it, and they say they do the exact same thing. Um, So, specifically, what difficulties did I find because of my autism? Well, finding common ground with people. So, that'd be number one. You'd show up, and I wanted to play the sport. That's what I was there for. So, I had my goal, play the sport, train. But when you're waiting around and you're early for training, and there's kids talking to each other and chatting, and they're obviously finding a common ground, that was so anxiety riddling for me because I just didn't know what to say. And whenever I try and find a common ground, people would think I was a weirdo, or just be like excluding me or whatever. It could get quite bad at times, and I was quite shy and quiet, so I wasn't going to go over and learn somebody's name. Actually, now when I'm older and I'm playing teams, it's one of the first things I do is I'll try and find somebody's name out so that I can talk to them and I know who they are. But back then, not a hope in hell. I was just way too anxious, um, and I just wanted to get on with the sport. So it would really frustrate me when people wouldn't pass, or they give away the ball, or if I could see something that they couldn't, I'd be screaming and shouting at them because it'd be like, how could you not see that? That was so obvious. I guess that pisses off a lot of people, but I do remember being a bit of an arsehole in a way and just being like, that was so obvious. How did you not see that? Oh my god, you're useless, you're crap. Because I do the exact same thing with myself, and I'm very self-critical, so I expected a lot from other people. But then not having great social skills, you're not going to be very liked. You're going to have to work on that, which I did. I did a lot. Um, Drills as well. Like when you're setting up a drill, um, like an activity to do, just in case, not a power drill. Um, Say like you could be tackling bags or doing a rucking drill or a passing drill, and you can do a passing drill in football or rugby. But it would throw me off so much if, say, I watched a demo of it and then somebody else went and they did it a different way, and then I'd kind of get confused and think, oh, are we supposed to do it this way or that way, or what's going on here? I guess the way of explaining that would be if it wasn't done exactly like the demonstration of the drill, I would just be like, oh, what the hell are we supposed to do? I found it difficult to say people's names because like getting to know them was a challenge. So I found it very difficult just to find a common ground and speak. So rugby, when you get the ball, you pass, you call a name, you say where you're gonna go. Communication was difficult for me. Um, Sitting in a dressing room at half time or after a game, seeing people going off with each other, wishing that I had the social skills to do that was really difficult. Um, and it just made me feel very excluded, wishing that I could find a common ground with people, but not being able to. Um, it was hard. It was very hard, and but it was something to keep me going. So when I went and I started playing rugby in school, I had that. I had games at the weekend. I actually had to pull back on that because, as I said before, I was cycling to and from school. I was doing rugby training, I do boxing training, I do football training during the week, and then have football and rugby games at the weekend. Just wasn't feasible, so I had to pull back. And I was told to stick with one sport, so rugby was that sport. It had always been the one that stood out for me, so that's what I did. And then as you start to get further into school and into playing for a team, your club team, you realise that there's a make or break moment, and I spoke about that before. But I was doing really well. It was difficult for me to get to the level where I was confident, like tackling or running with the ball, because hand-eye coordination is something I struggled with because of my autism. I was more awkward and clumsy than other kids. And actually, weirdly enough, when I looked it up, autism and sport difficulties you might see are muscle tone. And that doesn't even necessarily mean that you're less muscular, but what it means is you're more awkward. You're more likely to fall over, go over on yourself. You're you might not be as well developed because it gave a weird example like sitting up out of a chair, but it's like sitting up out of a chair, or sorry, it's like standing up from sitting on the ground for someone with autism when they're standing up from a chair. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just like their leg strength is a little bit off. It was an interesting thing just reading it. Lower muscle tone. If you want to check that out, it goes into more detail. But Yeah, it's kind of relatable because I would be more awkward doing things and I wouldn't take the drills as well as some people would. That's for sure. Um, but I was so determined. I really worked my arse off. Like, I will give myself credit where it's due. I wanted to be better than everybody, and I knew I had to do more work than people because I didn't take the stuff as naturally as they did. But I really just wanted to impress everybody. So I did. I trained really hard. Really wanted to impress my dad in particular. He was my coach in football, and he'd be really hard on me. Like, when you're a defender, and I played centre back, and so did he. So he was always just saying, don't get beaten, don't get skinned, as he says, don't get skinned. And he'd scream, "Oh, you got skinned." I was like, "Dad, please shut up. I can't concentrate." Now, I know some people who are neurotypical and non autistic might say, "Oh, it fueled me, it made me better." For me, it just distracted me. Having people screaming at me threw me off my game completely, especially my dad, because I wanted to impress him. I really wanted to impress him, and him being the coach, I felt like I let him down if I made any mistakes. Um, Given as well that I was playing in his position, centre back, I really wanted to make him proud. Hard man to make proud in sport, trust me. It was one of the reasons why I quit football because I just found it too difficult with him being the coach. And I'd have good games, and I was brutal when I started off of football. My mum even said it. I started out at left back and I played right back a little bit, so full back and centre back. But I was awkward, clumsy like that. My hand-eye coordination wasn't good, but I tried so hard to get good at it. And then I won Player of the Year. So that just kind of teach you a little bit about me and my mindset. I'd say I'm not the most naturally gifted at anything, and that means anything. But I work my arse off. That's my thing. Like, I will always become addicted to it. But rugby was the one I was best at because of my hard work ethic and my determination. And then playing a game, um, we were playing against one of our rival teams, and they beat us by like 28 points. But I played really well. Like, I was making turnovers, I was breaking through tackles, making good tackles as well myself. I was doing really well. Um, and there was a Leinster scout for underage rugby, and I was 15 at the time, 14 or 15. And I remember my coach at the time, my club, coming up to me, and he was like, three of the lads, including yourself, have been selected for a trial. But what we need you to do is go off and get a sign off from your rugby coach at school because you're playing rugby in school as well. So he needs to sign off on it and say that he's okay with that, and then you can go for a trial. I said it before, but it's called a green card. No, I'm not Mexican. um, that's just what it's called. Don't know why, but when I went to my coach, I was ecstatic because I was like, "Yes, this is the chance I've been waiting for." Um, and he just instantly said, "I'm not allowing this. You play school rugby, so you're not allowed." And I said, "Yeah, but you have the authority." And he said, "Well, I'm not signing off on it." And I said, "Ah, come on." And he said, "If you don't like it, you can take it up with the principal." And when I spoke to our principal, he later got a good position in rugby. Put it that way. I won't say too much more, but he was less than helpful. He just said, "Talk to your coach," and I said, "I have," and he told me to come to you, and he just was like, "Talk to your coach," basically blocking me, making it clear he wasn't going to help me. That pissed me off so much. Like, you can probably hear it in my voice. I'm not saying I would have been professional or anything like that, but it's kind of like when you see things on the telly, like, or TV, whatever you want to. But if you see things on TV like Last Chance the American football, they are given every chance in the world to succeed. So I am a little bit bitter about it. Even to this day, it really just it was everything to me at the time. Um, and it really annoyed me that they wouldn't help me out. They didn't think I was good enough. They told me that pretty much. Um, Not in so many words, but they made it clear that I was arrogant and thought I was better than I was. Obviously, it wasn't too bad if I was getting offered a chance. And that was the time where I was doing really well, my confidence was in a good enough place because like I've been playing for under 18s as a 13-year-old, 13, 14, getting broken up every week. But it made me tougher. It definitely made me tougher and grittier. Like I was really ballsy. Um, like, because I got smashed a lot of times and I felt like shit. I thought, Jesus, these lads are breaking me up. First it was, you're 12 playing against 15, 16 year olds. Then it was like, oh yeah, do you fancy playing for the under 18s? And I was like, oh, that's a compliment, yeah. And my dad's mindset, which really just sinks into me, is say yes, it's an opportunity, you could say a lot about him, but one thing about him is he's a hard worker. I'll give him that, and I definitely got a lot of that, but also an inability to say no. Um, but after that moment, I just wanted to piss off my coach for the school. Basically, I did get a bit cocky, and I didn't show up training. I never missed trainings at all. Always at every training, both club and school. And then I was like, you know what, fuck him. And I didn't show up to training. I'd even walk by and make a point of it. That I was perfectly fit, but I wasn't going training. And then I'd still get played. And he came up to me and said, if this guy was here today, you wouldn't be playing. And I said, yeah, well, he's not here, is he? So I am playing. Yeah, got a bit snippy and a bit pissy with him, but it was kind of like, fuck him. He didn't help me out when he could have done. And that's when I started drinking and smoking, getting invited out places. And I thought, a lot of people say, oh, if you get a chance to play a professional sport, you've got to dedicate yourself. And, sorry, just take a drink. Sorry, they say you've got to dedicate yourself 24/7. You got to be committed to the cause if you want to beat the competition. And it's a lonely road, and it's not easy. And I was there thinking, yeah, that's fair enough, Not that I had an awful lot of friends anyway, and I kind of would have said I don't really want any friends if I can succeed in sport, and that's a dream for me. I wouldn't really care. Um, but then I was like, that's my opportunity gone. That's it. There's not going to be any more chances. Because when you see the school system in Ireland, it's basically all private schools. So I said that to my coach. I said, I'm not going to get seen playing for this school, and the school I went to, we had produced a few really good rugby players over the years, but rugby had gone down significantly. Like the standard had dropped so low that there was nobody looking at us, not a chance. Um, so I got real pissy about that. I try not to hold any grudges now, but you do often wonder what if, like it's fair enough to think because I was so driven, I would have done everything in my power, and I know I would have done. Because after that, even though I started drinking and smoking, I wasn't chain smoking. Like wouldn't be buying a box every day. But if someone offered me one, I'd say, yeah, go on. And then when it came time to socialise, I'd be going out drinking in fields and, just not necessarily looking after myself. But I still kept training after that, after I wasn't playing under that coach anymore, and I went to play senior rugby in school. Um, I played in fourth year, so in Ireland it's called transition year. So basically, you're getting work experience. You're not really doing the same things as you'd be doing in fifth and sixth years. There's 6 years of secondary school. Um, in your third year, you do what's called the junior cert, which is like your first standardised test. And then in sixth year, you do the big one, which is your leaving cert, leaving certificate, which is the equivalent to like O levels, A levels in England, whatever you call. And then SATs. I always call them SATs, but you know what I mean. The big exam. So in fourth year, you get to kind of piss about and do different modules and go on trips. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. But I was playing for the senior team, and I was a top try scorer that season. Scored more than anybody else. And I thought I kind of stood out because we'd play against teams and we'd be beaten by like 50 points, and I'd score our only try and I'd make a load of line breaks. It kind of felt like I wasn't getting any praise for it, I felt like I was putting all the effort in but not really getting any reward for it. At this stage, like I was hitting the gym, and was actually I was kind of wiry, so I was going to the gym, but I was also trying to kind of starve myself, so I didn't really have much knowledge about nutrition. Be honest, I just thought like fat is bad, get as thin as you can, and that's good. And I was underweight, like really underweight. I didn't look good at all. When I look back at pictures of myself, but I thought, no, you need to get thinner and thinner. I wouldn't say I was anorexic. I don't think it's possible. I just think I have too much body fat to be anorexic. But I was starving myself. Like I was really thin and unhealthy looking, and my head looked too big for my body. And I was running, and I was drinking lots of coffee, like 6 cups a day, because I heard it was good. I heard Sylvester Stallone drank like 6 cups of coffee and honey to suppress his hunger, and I heard cigarettes were good for suppressing your hunger. So a bit counterintuitive, isn't it? Counterintuitive, counterproductive is the word. Um, you want to lose weight, you want to be healthy, but then you're smoking and drinking loads of coffee. Makes no sense. But that's how warped my thinking was at the time. So I was dealing with that and trying to play a sport and succeed in it. So like it's not really very feasible. Um, Start taking protein powder and got a bit bigger. Start kind of watching what I was doing a bit more. Um, I always thought to myself, if you go out drinking, you've got to train, run it off. Um, and so that's what I did. And like I was doing 12 kilometer runs nearly every day, every second day. So just how my schedule start working in fifth and sixth year, so my final 2 years when I really should have been studying. And I mean, I did study, but I also was so obsessed with getting somewhere and also looking the part. So I would train normally on. Sorry, I'm just trying to think now. So we used to have trainings on Tuesdays and no, Mondays. Mondays we'd have a game Wednesday, and then we train on a Friday as well. And then in between that, so usually like a Tuesday and a Thursday, I do 12 kilometer runs, try and get some done at the weekend, play a match on the weekend, go to the gym like 4 times a week, be running around on the pitch. I'd also do a gym session on a Monday and a Friday in school at like 6 in the morning, so I was getting up early, and it meant that I was actually in school early for once. Um, so it was like circuit sessions, and then I do my own heavy lifting as well. And I got fit, like I got in really good shape for what I'm capable of anyway. Like I didn't have ripped abs, but that's just not my physical physique. That's just not my genetics. I looked up a lot about that, and I learned that it's not possible unless I want to get really low on body fat and feel very unwell. It's not going to happen for me unless I can stay as disciplined as I need to, and I don't think I have the discipline to get ripped abs, and I don't think it'd be worth it either. It's a lot of hard work, but trying to do that, like get lean and ripped, unhealthy, and then trying to play a sport, it's not great. And if you don't have the genetics for it and you're not naturally ripped and have abs shown, it's very hard for you to do it. And if you're trying to get into the single digits of body fat, it can be quite dangerous. And so, like, I was quite low in energy because I was doing so much exercise. So then I'd be consuming energy drinks. Like I said before, I had like a 4 pack of Monster in my locker, the Monster Original. Um, and I just start drinking like 2 of them every day. Cups of coffee as well. Like I'm a caffeine addict for sure. I love caffeine and sugar, but I'd be burning off an awful lot as well by having protein shakes, protein milk, you name it, to try and get big. And I became obsessed with it. So you've got that difficulty that I had anyway with autism and doing sport, but also being highly self-critical, really self-critical. Like you're too fat, you need to get thinner. You need to keep running every day. You can't ever stop. If you stop, you're going to get unhealthy. And like before, like I come back from my run, right? So I'd be going to work. I'd do my run, my 12 kilometer run. I'd come home and do as many push-ups as I can every night, which was 57 I got to at one stage. Jesus, no chance of me doing that now. And then 1,000 crunches. I just keep going until I physically couldn't go anymore. If I didn't get to 1,000, I'd go till I physically couldn't feel my abs. I just thought you've got to push yourself as much as you physically can. Enough is never enough. And they sell us this bullshit, work harder than the competition. A lot of times it's the luck of the draw. People sell you this shit that, I just worked really hard to get where I am. People are drug cheats and they make it seem like they worked just harder than you. You're just not working hard enough. And it's a lot of shit. Like, how many Olympians do you see getting caught taking drugs? Like, people want to pass it off as hard work. I think I'm saying this not to be bitter, but to make people feel better about themselves. Don't beat yourself up about it. A lot of people who are selling you this lie aren't working as hard as they say they are. I just went into a gym, which is, I went to a gym in Ireland, like, on a free day pass, and I saw, like, it was a lot of Irish fitness influencers in there. So, they're ripped, they've got really lean muscle, the big bicep veins, the 8 packs. And I was looking over at them thinking, oh, I wonder what they do. And most of the time they're on their phone, you know, doing like your real stereotypical bodybuilder workout, which took all day, was really slow, wasn't very well done, but they were just giving the muscle a pump because when you inject anabolic steroids, that's all you really have to do. And I'm not going to name any names because I don't know for a fact, but yourself, when you look at these people, you can pretty much tell that they're taking something. And like, I went on websites before and I was close to buying steroids. Like, I just literally shat myself when I was online and thought, oh, I can't be taking this stuff because I heard about the side effects and I got a warning about them. But I was very tempted. I bought all the supplements and all and thought, oh, I'll just do it naturally. But they were wreaking havoc on my stomach, like the really rich protein powders, like the mass gainers and everything, um, which destroyed my stomach. And then with antidepressants as well, as I've already mentioned, they were really hard on my stomach too. And then you throw alcohol into the mix, Jesus, it's not good. So be careful, especially if you're taking a concoction of medications. Do be careful. Um, it's tough, And in school, I was just trying to stay fit, and I thought, I'm still young, I could still make it. Left school, and then I was playing. As I say, I was a yes man, never said no to anything. I went up to a new rugby club, which a few of my friends were playing at. I was 18, and I was told, oh yeah, we're gonna put you in the under-20s team. No, I played. Sorry, just gonna get a drink. Not gonna get sick. I played a few games in under-20s while I was still in school. A friend of mine just asked, would you mind playing for our team? We're short a few players, and I said, go on, yeah, no problem. Even though I really didn't want to, I couldn't say no. Like, I physically just, something in me just meant that I couldn't say no, and I thought to myself, people like me and they say I'm a good player. And this will give you a mindset, this will actually tell you about my mindset right now. So, he was at this club. It was in a well-to-do area of Dublin. All the lads were really nice. We're a little bit soft, like all nice fellas, but not really. I would say battle hardened is a bit cringy, But like, I'd come from playing a different kind of style. A lot of these players will come from private schools and then go into playing rugby afterwards, but they haven't had that kind of exposure to club rugby. And club rugby's a lot grittier and dirtier, I'd say. Like, lads will give you a dig, and it kind of builds you up. And also the fact that I've been playing for teams way older than me had stood to me, so I was a bit hardier, I would say. And that's not knocking the lads, they were lovely to me. But they said to me after the games, geez, you're really good, would you like to come and play permanently here? And I played 3 games for them, played brilliantly in every single one, like flawless. scored 2 tries in 3 games, made brilliant tackles, and then their coach, who also happened to be a coach at Leinster, was telling me how good I was and really wanted me to play. And you're thinking to yourself, Jesus, well, that this is the thing. I'm not blaming everybody else in this regard, because he actually said it to me. Talking about getting me at a club where they liked me. My mindset was, I've played brilliantly for these guys, nothing but good. It can only go downhill from here. I would like to end on a good note, and I just bottled it. Really, it was mad. I drink a lot of fluids, by the way, in case you're wondering. Um, Yeah, but you're there thinking to yourself, I was presented with that opportunity. My confidence had just been shot. That's why I'm saying, like, back when I was 15, I thought that was the chance. I was confident or I could be reached at that point. That was the time where everything was on the up. And it just makes me wonder. But then, like, I wasn't offered anything this time, but I thought to myself, why didn't I do it? The nerves just hit me, and then leaving school, I decided I'd play for my friend's team. I knew a few people there, and the club I'd been at since I was 7 till 18 basically just said, see ya, you know? Like, that's pretty shit. That's why I ended up just playing a few games for that under 20s team. I don't want to mention any clubs, I know it's getting confusing, but yeah, the club I'd been with all my life basically just didn't bother contacting me, and then a load of lads from different schools played under 20s there, played for the first, seconds, whatever team. No one bothered to contact me. I tried asking about a team, but wasn't given any information, so I left. Played with my friend's team. Um, Hoping to play under 20s, and then I ended up getting put straight into the men's team, so the firsts, and then the seconds. Played a lot for the seconds, but again, it was an awful lot. So it just shows you the harsh reality of rugby and sport in general. Like, when you're important, they will care about you, and then they just forget when you're gone. And you got to kind of get ready to deal with that. And then also, if you say yes, then they'll come to expect a certain level from you, which is what happened, because I would be in college, and like I was saying, we'd have labs on Mondays and Tuesdays, so they were quite intensive labs as well, and they were also important. You couldn't miss them, because if you missed more than 75%, you failed and you had to repeat the labs. And that wasn't something you could just repeat an exam for. You had to do the whole things again, the whole thing again. So not good. But with me, I had to do my training. I was in that mindset of I could still get somewhere. I might even get a scholarship here. I had a grant already paying for college, but um, I played a few games for the college, and they said, oh, we could offer you a scholarship and it gives you extra money. So I thought, all right, grand. So I was training for my club, um, going to the gym with them. So I was up there from 6 till 10, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Then Monday, Wednesday, I would get my gym sessions done on my own as well, independently. Still doing a few runs, ended up doing a lot of cardio up on the pitch with the team, so I cut back on the cardio outside of rugby. I usually give myself Friday off or do a light gym session, but then I'd play for the seconds, play 80 minutes for them, 40 minutes for the first team, and then I ended up playing on a Sunday for the 20s. And when I wasn't playing for the 20s, and then on the Saturday I would go on the piss, and then I'd be absolutely dying the next day, physically and mentally, with a rage and hangover. Because, like I said before, and this bringing it back to autism, I know I'm kind of going off topic, I understand, but it's just my personal story. The mingling with people afterwards in rugby, I kind of felt like I belonged now. Like, people were giving me compliments. I was a tough player as well. I don't mind saying that about myself. But the social aspect of it afterwards still terrified me. So I was drinking after every game. It's like, work hard, play hard. So I ended up drinking an awful lot. And, lots of lads were very generous. They'd buy me around. But rugby has a lot of drinking in it. Like, give you an example, I was made to drink a pint through a dirty sock, someone's dirty sock, which was disgusting. I puked nearly instantly. I, I was made to drink a lovely cocktail of Bailey's, liqueur, Frank's hot sauce, and tuna chunks. It's safe to say when the tuna chunks touch the back of my throat, I start projectile vomiting. And the games like are so much fun. That's the thing. You feel like one of the lads. And like I said before, being out of place, not fitting in, not knowing how to find a common ground. Now, lads just thought you were a legend if you downed a point. And I'd say the most outlandish things when I was drunk as well. So it's no wonder I took the drink like a duck to water. It was just so difficult. That was an added stress of thinking, how am I going to talk to these lads in a way that won't make me look stupid? I also don't want to let them down. I want to impress them. I want to seem tough. I want to seem masculine. I don't want them to think I'm a softie or a pussy. Sorry. And then on the inside, I'm just shaking. I'm so anxious. I'm so nervous all the time. And I'm going to every training, and then they're giving me praise. I'm getting man the match in games. But then what happens is I get told by a lecturer in college, you're falling behind, you're going to need to seriously start studying more, or you're going to fail. And I thought, oh shit, I'm going to fail college. Lads, sorry, I can't make this week. I'm going to have to take. I gave like 2 weeks' notice before a game. I was like, sorry guys, I'm going to have to go back on games. I seriously need to start studying. I'm falling behind heavily. And the coach was like, yeah, no problem. But other lads in the team were dropping out, and then everybody was all, because I'd been a yes man, you see, and I'd always said yes. Everybody was like, when somebody else would drop out, they were like, oh, well, it's Grant Dan will play, won't you? And I was like, no, I'm not playing, lads, I can't. And they were like, what, come on. And I was like, no, I can't. I have to study, I've got exams coming up, I've got to take some time off. Because knowing how I am, I will dedicate all my time to training, and I won't think about studying. So I needed to reshape how I did everything, literally, because what I was doing just wasn't working. So that's what I did. And then lads are hounding me a week before the game to play. I said, can't. I've told everyone I'm leaving it at that. But lads could usually twist me into playing before, so I'd kind of set the tone myself. But I kept sticking to my story, no. And then the day before the game, lads were dropping out literally hours before kick-off. And then a list was made, including my name, basically saying that I was a last minute dropout. And I thought, fuck this, I'm being named in shame as if I'm letting the team down. I've given 2 weeks' notice, and then I just blocked everyone on social media. Everything, blocked people's numbers, just wasn't talking to people. I just couldn't deal with the pressure. I was miserable. That's when the depression hit me badly. And then I was still training in the gym, but then I took 3 months off. I was working as well in a cafe, which was really stressful. Got really bad, got on top of me a lot, gained so much weight. I ballooned up to 20 stone, so nearly 127, 128 kilos, 280 pounds if you're American. And I felt like shit. Still, weirdly enough, had an alright level of fitness. Like, I played 2 games. I came back after a long stint out of rugby union, and I played the rugby league for the summer just for the laugh. It was very physical. It was enjoyable though. It was a good laugh, but it kind of took my mind off the seriousness of rugby for a while. Yeah, it was just a bit of a laugh, a bit of enjoyment. Um, and at this point, like, I'd build up enough confidence that I could go and talk to people and train, and I could just chat and have a laugh with people, and get to know their names. Um, and that was the thing, you know. But I went back to play rugby union and played 2 games for that club, and then was like, fuck this, I'm not coming back. We played a game that was just very frustrating, and any forward in rugby will know when you win a scrum and then the back's knocking on, it's very frustrating. But I remember just faking an injury and going off for the first time in my life. I'd never done that before. And then um, what followed was I would start doing that a bit more because I was unfit. I lost my fitness. I stopped training properly, and I could barely last any length of time. You know, playing rugby league, I came off after 20 minutes after having a great game, and the season afterwards, after my first season, came back for season two after passing my exams, got that sorted, but unfortunately I was physically in bad shape, and yeah, brilliant 20 minutes. Then hit my head, felt a bit dizzy, and I didn't have the wherewithal to stay on. Didn't have the fitness. I was like, I'm done. Went to get tested for a concussion. Um, also picked up a bad shoulder injury, which fucked me. Left one. As on the screen, it looks like right, but it's the left. Making a tackle and a big lad and his knee hit me in the shoulder, and it just meant that my shoulder was in bits. I couldn't bench press. I couldn't do anything. Even squatting, because putting the bar across, yeah, it really hurt doing deadlifts. And I was getting really good stats, you know, so my mental state being as weak as it was, and now physically not being very strong either, or having a lot of pain, like doing bear crawls, you know, when you're shuffling along, and all down my arm, like my bicep, was killing me. So I got really depressed. I stopped training. Um, and yeah, that's basically it. Like when we moved down here to Wexford, I started playing rugby again. Barely could last longer than one half. You know, just couldn't do it. You know, the fitness just wasn't there. The lads couldn't have been nicer to me. But um, my last game was actually rugby league, and I puked in that after playing really well for a few minutes, about 25 minutes. Just couldn't go any longer. Pushed myself, pushed myself. Was like, I'm gonna get sick, and then I got sick. Rugby union, same thing. Made a few big tackles, made a few good runs. Start puking my ring up. I was like, this is embarrassing. You know, it's humiliating. Keep getting sick because like I would always give what I could. That's why I decided to take a year off, because I was the position I played and my style is very front on, like banging into each other head on head. Like, you know, I always dive in head first and be brave, you know. Um, that's just kind of a backstory, but I'd like to just say how nervous I was before games. I'd be shitting myself, you know, I'd be so anxious. Point where you'd nearly be freezing. And you can't freeze in a game. You have to make a tackle, you have to put a shoulder in, you have to be confident, aggressive, and make a big hit. And sometimes I'd just be shaking. I'd be kind of like, oh, I don't trust myself to make this hit, and I just lunge and jump in at them, make a high tackle or whatever. It took a lot of willpower and mental strength to go out and play that game, but I was exhausted after it. Yeah, I was just shot. Even talking now, I am. Um, and there is a negative side to sport, and I meant to talk about this earlier, but I kind of just went down a rabbit hole of saying my own story. But I guess you get to see the worst in people. You know, like these are things I wanted to discuss earlier, but parents on the sideline of games, and when I was as young as like 11 or 12, screaming abuse at players in the opposition team, trying to put you off, you know, it's disgusting. Shouldn't happen. And that's in every sport that I've played. You know, I really just don't like that. That shit really annoys me. You know, parents just trying to put you down, make you feel bad about yourself. I've played against some obnoxious teams as well. You know, it just makes you really tense and really angry. Um, I remember a player on another team before, and rugby's a very respectful game, but this fella called our coach a fucking idiot. And he was only like 14 or 15. You're there thinking, well, he was older than me at the time, but you're kind of going, geez, I can't believe he said that to our coach. What an arrogant little twat. But unfortunately, that would be a lot of people. A lot of these people end up getting places as well, and they've got this real air of superiority about them. And I hate that stuff. Like, I was always a believer in going out and playing your game, being the best you could, and it's an idealistic way of thinking. It's funny though, talking to my mum and talking to, I think women are a lot more supportive of each other. I give credit where it's due. They don't seem to do that shit, but in men's game in particular, a lot of times guys are trying to get in your head, like putting you down and going, oh, come on, fat boy, run at me here. And yes, I have been called fat boy many times in games. Um, I just marked their card. That's like, I'm going to hit you and I'm going to hurt you now. And I got very aggro, I was there thinking, I'm going to take this out on this fella now. I'm going to hit him hard. I'm going to hurt him. I was never really very good with my words, If I got into a slagging match, I'd probably lose. And I was kind of like, I don't want to look like a fool. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to just laugh at the fella. I'm going to take it on the chin. Not literally. I'm going to give it to him on the chin. But remember sometimes like games would nearly be called off because it got so bad. Like literally before I'm playing a rugby game, and there were two parents standing behind the goalposts, roaring abuse at our fullback, trying to make him drop a ball. So whoever doesn't know rugby, the fullback has to be very good under a high ball. The ball gets kicked up into the air, and the fullback has the best view. So usually they have to be very positionally aware, and they jump up, catch it, and bring it into them. Um, and they'd be screaming at him, and then they were roaring abuse, and they wouldn't move when the ref told them to. And then they started saying, "We're not doing anything. What are you being so ridiculous for?" And then the referee asked, "Whose dad is that? Whose dads are they? If you don't get them to move, you're forfeiting the game." And then two of the guys were literally too embarrassed to admit who their dad was, and then they eventually went, "Dad, will you just fucking move?" You could see how embarrassed they were. And then not shaking our hands after the game. Like, in fairness, the captain said, "Come on, lads, for fuck's sake, shake their hands." And he got them to shake our hands, but the rest of them weren't doing it because they didn't get the result they wanted. And then we ended up getting cheated out of that game. We drew with the team that were expected to wipe the floor with us, and they had done in previous games. Because they had their Leinster players and we had no Leinster players in our team. So it looked really bad on them not beating us, like completely destroying us. And then they said we had an ineligible player. That was a hard one for me to get. And an enemy. But yeah, stuff like that. We checked, our coach double checked, triple checked to make sure it was alright. He was a barrister by trade, so he's fairly good with documentation. So I take his word over theirs, and I've seen enough cheating going on to know. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth for sure. Like you say, go out and play sport is a great release for sure. Yeah, absolutely. But people don't really talk about the stuff that goes um, on the pitch, the verbals and the ridiculous carry on by adults on the sideline. Players not getting picked, not based on merit, but based on the coach's son or whatever. Um, it just made me quite aggressive as well. I noticed how on edge I was all the time, and thinking about the game and how I was really annoyed at how I played, being quite unapproachable, and also not very good at taking criticism. Being like, "Oh, I tried as hard as I could, and or I'll get better, or I'll work on that." Um, or I ended up just getting sent off a few times just for getting in a fight with people. Because I was so tense, and then they'd do something to me in the game, and I'd be like an elastic band just waiting to snap, and then I just go out and lose the head. rather than letting them get one over on me. I just was like, I'm gonna get this fucker now. Didn't mind if I got sent off because loads of times I didn't want to play the game in the first place because I got so anxious before the game. And that's something as well, like forcing myself to play even though I really didn't want to. Like lads were saying, oh, I can't wait for the game at the weekend, are you excited? And I was like, oh yeah, of course. And I wasn't. And I spoke to my brother about that and we both agreed we're both the same. A lot of times we didn't even want to play the game. So I don't know why I forced myself to do it for so long to the point where I got physically sick, quite literally on the pitch. Um, yeah, as literally as you can get. Makes no sense to me. But I guess I was trying to prove that I was this tough guy and I didn't want to let people down. And if someone said to somebody else who hadn't seen me play, oh, you should see Dan on the pitch, he's a great player, I'd be like, oh, well, they haven't seen me. I have to show them in the flesh how good I am. Or it means nothing, you know? Or show them highlights of me on YouTube. There were actually games on YouTube. Sorry, I'm getting bad acid reflux in case you're wondering why I keep going like that. Yeah, these videos are unedited, like, so I do kind of just go down a rabbit hole. Sorry about that, but I like it to be that way, you know, unedited and just raw. Um, it's just fruit for thought, really, isn't it? Like, there's a lot of toxicity that goes along with sport. You know, you hear the glory stories and how hard you have to work if you want to get somewhere, but you don't hear about people who do put all their effort into it and don't get selected or don't get the trial they were hoping for. And I learned about that disappointment firsthand. I also learned about overdoing it, just overtraining, you know, and I had to burn myself out beyond belief to realise how unhealthy my obsession was. And I personally don't believe I could have done any more. I was training so hard, you know, dragging myself up, consuming so many stimulants. Jesus, it was very unhealthy. Um, and you know, sometimes it's just not feasible. Like when you've got 40 hours of college, you're working as well, and I worked all the way throughout college until my final year when it was agreed that I would take time off. Um, Wanted to pass. Lecturers told us there's a big correlation between those who fail and those who work, you know. So I was like, alright, fine, I'll take the final year out. I've saved up enough money from work. I'm alright. I'll put in the effort. And my mum, in fairness, all my family were pretty understanding of that. They were like, college is the most important thing. No problem. So grand. Um, and as well, when I was told about a scholarship, which is another letdown actually, because I played games for the college because I saw a guy from my old team and we were chatting and he said, oh, you're obviously playing rugby, aren't you? I was like, yeah, alright. And when they were talking about giving me a scholarship, I was like, alright, grand, what do I have to do? Well, you'd have to be showing that you're helping further rugby in the college. And I was like, yeah, grand, no problem. They were like, oh, there's a very important meeting on today, we need everybody to attend. And I was like, grand. It was literally 3 people, and 2 of those people had to be there. I didn't have to be there, but I wanted to impress. So I was like, well, this is great. And then I said, can we move training to a different day from Monday? Because Monday was one of the days I had labs on. They were like, grand, what day would you like training on it? And I said, well, I do have labs on a Tuesday, but I finish earlier, so I'd be able to make training and quite intense on Monday, but on a Tuesday they finished earlier, which meant I would have been able to do my lab and then go training. They were like, alright, we'll ask. They didn't change it. Then they were like, sure, we'll just give you an absence form, um, signing you off. The lecturer said that'll only cover you for 2 labs. After that, you're not getting any more. I was like, guess I can't play rugby then. And just that lack of understanding of different courses, and I was like, you know what, I'm not arsed doing this again. I'm not putting myself through it. I've got a grant, so I'm going to use that. I started doing Olympic weightlifting in college because I was a fat bastard. And there's basically fuck all cardio required for Olympic weightlifting. and it definitely worked on my mobility, which needed a lot of work. Um, it just took that pressure off me, you know. Like sport is very important, but sometimes it's not feasible, and you gotta focus on your priorities. Like if I prioritized rugby, I would have failed college. That's a fact. And rugby took away an awful lot in terms of how intense I was and how antisocial I could be at times, you know, because I just wanted to do that, like just go train and then play a game at the weekend, watch games. Um, it gave me a lot though, discipline, people skills. It did improve that. Because then, on a good note, playing team sports, it's like trial and error. Like you see the bullies in American TV shows, and they're always the top athletes. The big jocks because they're physically stronger than other nerdier kids, and they bully them because of it. I suppose in that regard, like you do need self belief, so you can be quite narcissistic when you're in that sport and environment. I just didn't have that self belief. It just wasn't there. I had the effort and the work rate and the determination, but I never had that arm around me or that support that I needed to succeed. And I do think you need that. You need somebody to come to you and tell you you're good enough and to let you know. So when I'm coaching now, that's exactly what I try and do with young lads that I'm working with, because I say don't want these lads to give up, and I'm trying to have more patience, because some lads aren't gonna be successful athletes. They're not built for it. They're not good enough, but they can enjoy it, and that's another thing. I have to kind of drill that into my head. Some lads are gonna be different abilities, and I need to respect that and work with that. And I try and reward guys who are showing up to train and who might not be very talented, but in fairness to them, they're getting themselves out there. So fair play to them, and I like to reward that. That's something I want to see, and I'm impressed when I do see it. Um, just because of how driven I was and how much trainings I went to. I want guys to know if they bother their arse to show up and they're always there, I'll pick them over the guy who doesn't show up. I'm a big believer in that. Um, but yeah, I'm just thinking like I don't want to leave anything out. Um, yeah, I'm just kind of finish on how anxious sport made me and self-critical. Because there were good and bad. There's good and bad to everything. There's pros and cons to everything. But say in a game, like in 2 games I played, I made 28 tackles and 2 turnovers, and won 29 tackles and 3 turnovers, which is like really phenomenal amount. I know this because they were filmed by our coach, so I was able to check it afterwards. But my mindset at the time was, oh, but look at these tackles that you missed. And it's not a healthy place to be. Being extremely self-critical of, oh my god, you missed this, you didn't do that right. That is unhealthy. I'll tell you that now. Um, it's not good for you being so self-critical. Holding yourself to high standards is important for sure, but not being that self-critical, not at all. Um, Team sports can be good though for building up your people skills, physical fitness, of course. Um, but there's also a heavy drinking element involved, um, such as rugby, which I loved. I'm not saying I hated it. I'm saying the opposite. I absolutely adored it. So that's what made it even more dangerous. But it's good to have a social network, but within reason. You can overdo it. Nobody will tell you that. People will just keep telling you how great you are and how hard you're working, or they won't. They won't appreciate you until you're gone. Um, but find what works for you. And if you find that it's too much of a chore every week, as it was for me, to make it out, to play games, to train, I just had to summon so much energy to do it, and it wasn't worth it. Wasn't worth it at all. It was exhausting. Um, and it wasn't feasible at the time. Maybe if I was doing a different job, or I didn't have college at the time, or I was getting a scholarship, perhaps, but I wasn't, so it wasn't feasible. End of, not wondering about ifs, buts, or maybes. Just my circumstances didn't allow for it. End of. I gave it my best shot for sure. Happy to be coaching at the minute, and I want to try and be a positive influence on anyone that I can. Um, I hope this was helpful. If anyone has any questions about this, I'd really appreciate if you'd send them my way, because this is something I didn't hear anything about at all. I couldn't get any advice on it. There's an autistic channel. Oh, Ryan Kelly, he's an Australian guy. I'll just give him a mention, because if you want to check out autistic people in sport, he was interviewing an Australian female soccer player, and I thought it was a good watch. But I'd like to give a male perspective as well, because there's a lot of young fellas out there who just need a push, and they also need to take it easy on themselves. It's good though that there's a woman out there who's also autistic talking about it, because women in sport is important to discuss too. But that's obviously not something that I can speak about personally. But it's a positive video. She speaks about her difficulties, and I thought it was very well made. But yeah, I really hope that helps, because I want to just finish by saying my dad could be very hard on me, and people weren't very sympathetic at first, because they thought you're well capable of playing the sport. You're more than capable. You're one of our best players. And my dad would literally brought me to a training session before, and I didn't know what it was. I'd gone to training countless times, but I was so overwhelmed. I think it was just a bad week in school and training on a Friday. I said, I can't get out of the car, Dad. I can't go to training. I was having a panic attack. But he said, what do you want me to do? Hold your hand. That's the most unhelpful thing you can say to not just autistic people, but anyone who's panicking about training. You got to be nicer to them. My dad was that old school Dublin type of fella, though, that just grow up here and get on with it. And that I'm not knocking that completely. Sometimes you gotta just not be a handbag, but you also have to be nicer about it. Coaches need to be more understanding in that regard. It's not stop being a pussy and just grow up here. Some lads do, but in general, I'd like to try and be encouraging, and then if I know I've done all I can for those lads, I'd be like, look, I've done everything here for you. If either you want to do it or you don't. Ask yourself that. Fair enough if you don't want to do it, no problem. But if you don't want to do it, just give yourself a breather. Best advice. Try and be nicer, try and be better to yourself. If it's too much hassle every week to get yourself out for training, maybe go and support the team. Watch the team playing. Say you're sick, say whatever you need to, just to get the pressure off if anyone asks why you're not playing. Just be nicer in general. Teams need to be encouraging. Like I remember lads before, because I was a good player, and the lads in the team would tell me how good I was every so often. But more often than not, they'd say, "Oh, you missed a tackle here, you got boshed here, or whatever. You got sidestepped here. Oh, that fella put you on your arse." People were just constantly trying to drag me down or remind me when I lost a game. And telling me how shit I was as well. People just always knew how competitive I was and how I loved playing and how I wanted to win. And a lot of guys who didn't even bother their arse to get out on the pitch, who were cowards. But they got a good laugh out of winding me up when I lost the game and reminding me about it. That there can be a lot of negativity too, so just watch yourselves, take care. I'd love people to contact me, especially autistic people if you've played sport. I'd like to know your experience. Even just anyone in general, if you've had a negative experience in sport, why was it negative? Because I'm coaching now at the minute, as I said, so I'm trying to take notes. I'm trying to keep lads involved in sport, so it's actually something that really matters to me. So if you've got any tips, I'd love to hear them. And This video's been one that I've wanted to make for a very long time. All of them have, but this one in particular, because I was hoping to give some advice to someone out there who's autistic, trying to play sport, trying to get involved, and is maybe having a hard time of it, because it's not easy, let's be honest. So, be nice to yourselves, guys. Don't beat yourselves up, and if something is more hassle than it's worth and you're not enjoying it, take a break from it. No issue with that whatsoever. Even if you're good at it and people keep telling you you're very good at it, still take a breather, Be nicer to yourselves. And on that note, guys, cheers. I'll end the video there.